Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Hello, Libration Nation. All right, this week's book is Her Fearful Symmetry by Audrey Niffenegger. It is the story of twins, Valentina and Julia, who are the daughters of a twin, and the complicated relationships that these four women share, and that ultimately ends up being a bit of a ghost story and quite an interesting read. My guest this week is Valerie Adachi. Valerie is a self-proclaimed bookworm. She even enjoyed reading cereal boxes as a kid. She loves reading the New York Times and spreading it out. She's a skilled cook and traveler. Valerie loves to travel, and she has 4 dogs. She is an active dog lover. And beyond that, she lives on music, good food, and drinks shared with friends and family, and the thrill of knowing that adventure is always nearby. Valerie has also become a good friend of mine, so this was a fun conversation. This is her second time back on the podcast, so I think you're really going to enjoy it. I also am adding something this week. We could not get by without talking about the ending of Her Fearful Symmetry. I was just struck dead on the floor. So usually on Drinks in the Library, we try to avoid spoilers, and we do in this episode. However, I will have a segment. I will jump back in here and let you know before it starts, so you can turn it off and you don't have to listen to it. But we do dive into the ending of the story, because you'll hear me if you listen to it. I could not stop thinking about it. Our drink this week is an Earl Grey hot toddy. The book is set in London near Highgate Cemetery, very kind of spooky. So we had to do an Earl Grey for our English roots, and the hot toddy, that includes whiskey. There's a lot of whiskey drinking throughout the book, so we sort of combined them. And it's January, it's cold, it's like snowing on and off here, so perfect time for a hot toddy. All right, about to get to it. If you like this show, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Please go on there and give me 5 stars. That helps other people find me. Also, I am now on TikTok. Well, I've been on TikTok, but I'm actually using my TikTok. If you are on there, please come find me. I'll follow you back, and learning the world of the internet these days, I guess. So, all right, let's get to it. I can edit it. Just make sure we get everything in case you say anything incredibly witty in the next 35 seconds. We need it on.
I hardly doubt that, but I don't know. I think because I've listened to so much now, and
Does that make it worse?
It does, because some of your guests have been very prolific, and I'm just a little ordinary person.
I think you are amazing. I'm
deeply ordinary.
Gorgeous. What is it? Mohair?
It's
like the
actually
softest sweater.
It's cashmere, they say.
Oh my
but
gosh.
It's fuzzy, and I'm very pink. Pink is one of my colors, so
I love it.
yeah,
That's great.
I'm very into the pink.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I will say you are probably my most fashionable friend.
Oh, thank you.
Well, not to hate on any of my other. I have a lot of fashionable friends, but you are always.
Oh, thank you.
Got something cute and thoughtful.
That's outside my house. Inside my house, I had this wonderful. I had these fuzzy UGG slippers with my nightgown and a sweatshirt of a different color.
Okay.
I was very fashionable yesterday in front of the fire. It was cold yesterday, right? And then today it's nice because the sun came out.
Yeah, but it might snow tomorrow. Just a heads up.
I saw a sign on the highway. Prepare.
Prepare. So anyhow, okay, you're back.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Like I said, I'm more nervous this time than I was the first time, because I didn't know what Wade was doing the first time. And now you've had so many guests with so much background in history. And so it's a little intimidating, but
We're gonna have fun.
Okay. All
And
right.
this
We've
is
got the whiskey to kind
we've
of
got the whiskey. So we're drinking
ease.
hot toddies.
Mhm.
And it's perfect because, like you said, it's cold out, might snow, and then also our book set in London.
Yes, so it's set in London, and there's a lot of, as I was rereading, I've read this book. This is my comfort novel. Whenever I just need a break, if I want to just a little escape, I know what's going to happen. And it's written well enough that you always find a little something you missed the first time. And they drink a lot of tea. Of course, it's London. But they drink a lot of whiskey. So I thought, we did whiskey neat last time I was here. So I'm like, let's mix it up and have a hot toddy. So I think it suits both. I don't think they have hot toddies in there. They do drink a lot of whiskey and they do drink a lot of tea. So
yes, Robert, one of the main characters, is drinking quite a bit throughout the book.
Yeah. he has different times of stress in different ways. So have you read the book, or have you okay.
Okay, so just a heads up. I try to read the book, but I don't always get to it. I honestly sometimes think it makes for a better episode if I haven't read it all the way through, because then I'm not like, really wanting to actually dive into it and give spoilers and stuff. But I did finish this one.
Okay. And did you just read it?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I read it for this.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Oh, excellent.
It was a ride.
Uh-huh.
It was definitely a ride. Like I was in it the whole time. Yeah.
Is that a like?
I liked it. I mean, would you take the critique that it's a little bit of a wild story?
I think it's one of those stories that you just have to believe and just let go of, like, real life reality.
Yeah.
Because it goes beyond our concrete world.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't want to give like too much away. I mean, we can talk a lot about like the body of how it plays out, I guess, a little bit. I wouldn't want to tell. I don't want to spoil anything.
The ending is, for anyone that's interested in reading, the ending is like, wow.
It's worth getting through?
Yes, definitely worth getting through.
Yeah. So Audrey Niffenegger wrote The Time Traveler's Wife, which was also made into a movie. But I actually prefer this novel.
Really?
I think this one, I think it's a little bit more relatable in a love story sort of way. And there's a lot of different relationships, but I think a lot of people could identify with some of the characteristics, if not the relationship itself. So it's based on the story of twins that have twins.
Yes.
And the story mostly is centered on the younger set of twins that are called mirror twins in this story, which was really interesting.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to check it too. Because I think if I'm going to talk about this, I have to make sure it's real.
Yeah. So what are mirror twins?
So mirror twins are identicals they have the same characteristics and markings, but on the opposite side. So if one has a mole on the right side of their face, the other one will have it on the left side. It's something about what the timing of when the embryo splits, I guess.
Yeah, it was development. Like 9 days or something. Like
so I don't know the scientific part behind it, but they're supposed to reflect. And then there's a very, very rare mirror twins where actually the other twins' organs are on the other side, which apparently
was Valentina in this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love the descriptions of the characters and the twins, the young twins. Well, I guess we should start at the beginning, right? Or
start at the very beginning.
Okay. So there are a set of twins that are estranged, sister twins, and one lives in America and one lives in London. And they were British by birth, so they were born in England, and then one twin moved to America. They're estranged, and so the young twins don't know their aunt.
And the young twins are in Chicago.
Yes, they're in Chicago. And so I read a little bit about Audrey Niffenegger and how she's from Chicago. So I think that all the parts feel very true to the places, because apparently she went to England and rode around on all the buses and trains, and so that she could be familiar with the areas that her twins
were in. Did she go to Highgate?
Yes.
So did she go to Highgate before?
I think she was writing. I think as she was writing the story, and I think it evolved over time. Like the story that we have now is not how the story started, but I think it's such a unique story. So I
Yeah.
think that's why I really like it. I think we can talk about love between sisters and love between family and love between like significant others and love between friends and neighbors that support us.
Yeah.
And everybody has like some of those things in common, but this one is unique because it's twins and they're very twinny, the girls, because they're almost, she presents them as very young.
Yeah. They're 21 when the bulk of the story, they're 21.
Yeah. But they present and
Yeah.
and people view them when they first see them. They're tiny in stature
Yeah.
and so very petite and very fair. They look like little fairies.
Yeah.
And so people think they're much younger than they are when they first meet them.
Mhm.
And so the way that they get to England is that the aunt in England bequeaths her apartment to them because she knows she's dying. This is not a spoiler. And she knows she's dying, and so she bequeaths her apartment and all of her possessions to the twins she's never met, with some conditions that her own twin, her sister, does not come to the apartment, and the twins live in it for a year. If they decide to sell it, they can sell it after a year, and they keep all the proceeds, and those are the conditions of them getting their inheritance. So it sort of paves the way for, you don't have to worry about jobs and money and all that kind of stuff. And the mystery of it gives them a reason for being in London. And so then the love part of the story from like the significant other component is Robert, who is Elspeth's significant other. They live in the same building, and he is distraught and despairing and, is crushed when she is dying and when
she does die.
she does die.
Yeah.
I have a couple little things
Oh,
that I
good.
tried to
Yay.
that I tried to say, because I think that these are true to anybody that's going through grief and loss. And then there's the beginning of it, and it sort of, I think, explains the extent of how much of him belongs to Elspeth, or how important she is to him. And he says, "How will I remember everything about Elspeth as she's passing?" Now he was full of her smells, her voice, and the hesitation on the telephone before she said his name. And at this moment, he knew everything he would ever know of Elspeth, and he urgently needed to stop time so that nothing could escape.
That is, I mean, yeah, I can feel that when someone passes away, you feel like you're going to slowly forget them.
Right. And that there isn't any, we are all living for, we try and live in the moment, but we're always waiting for more. We're always waiting for the next. And I think that's just a hard truth of, going through life, is that sometimes this is, at some point, some of these things end. And so that part of his grief, and his grief is very raw in the novel, and that really speaks. It really speaks to me, I think, just that anguish. I haven't had that for a long time, that lost love anguish when, your heart is broken. But this is broken, which is different than, like a breakup where the other person is still in the world. So I think I really like Robert a lot as one of the characters in the story. I think outside of the twins, he's like probably the biggest character.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the young twins, Valentina, I kept wanting to call her Valerina, and I was like, no, that's close to that's your name I'm trying to take. Valentina and Julia.
Yes.
So they come over. So Elspeth passes, and they're like, okay, we'll go live in this apartment. And I would say Valentina is more interested in a lot of it than Julia is. I think Julia would like to keep status quo, just have she and Valentina continue on as is.
Yeah, as the story kind of progresses, and as I've read it through more than once, the twins kind of start and stop a lot of different. At the beginning, when they're in Chicago, it talks a little bit about, why are they 21 and they don't have jobs?
Yeah.
They're still almost acting like children. Still, they had started college, they stopped. They started college, they stopped. And through the story, a lot of it is driven by Julia. She's kind of the decision maker. She has a stronger personality.
Yeah.
And Valentina acquiesces throughout the story. She ends up being kind of the timid one, or presented as timid, and then but despite that, people are often more drawn to her because she's not as bossy, because she's quieter,
Yeah.
she's maybe more approachable. Robert is certainly drawn to her, so
Yes.
some of these things get really interesting later on.
Yeah, I think, what is it? Julia is jealous of her a bit because it is, I think even though they look exactly the same, yeah, Valentina is definitely the one that people are attracted to. And I think she just has kind of a meek spirit or I don't know, meek might be a decent word. Excuse me. And so, yeah, she's maybe, like you said, not as intimidating, I think, is the real truth of it. But Julia kind of reminded me of, like, when you're young and you're like a bull in a china shop and you just haven't figured yourself out yet. And she's so jealous about things about Valentina. And I was just thinking, it reminded me of like myself a bit as like that young, like teenager of being like, why doesn't anyone like me? And it just really was like I hadn't quite figured out how to fit into myself just yet.
Yeah.
Or maybe like I was pushing on parts of my personality that didn't really fit me.
Trying on different
things.
And I think that there is a part in the story where it talks about the differences between Julia and Valentina. And as she's trying trying to find herself, there's like this quieter, more approachable version of herself that people are drawn to because they don't, they kind of don't have to like deal with, like if they just, hang out with Valentina, they don't have to deal with like the Julia component, which makes her even more insecure.
Yeah.
But is also in the story, Valentina is also not well because of her reversed situation internally. So she is the sicker twin, and so part of the bossiness of Julia is protective over Valentina and always taking care of. They think of themselves as we all the time. There's a character when we get to that later that asks Julia, or maybe it's Martin. They asks, "Do you always speak of yourself as we?"
As we, yes, I think it's Martin, the upstairs neighbor. I think I do remember
when Julia
that
goes
part.
upstairs.
Yeah, when Julia goes upstairs. Yeah.
So I think the London is like the beginning of the twins really starting to find themselves as individuals, finding different paths and different opportunities where they were kind of cloistered at home, and their parents were kind of, happy to have them home under their roof, weren't ready, weren't telling them, you need to get out there in the world, maybe a little bit overprotective. And then through the story, there are hints and there are little like secrets from the estranged twins that kind of layer over the story a little bit. But the parents aren't in the story a lot. It really is a lot about the twins and their journey.
Yeah. And I realized while we're talking that we got so excited, I didn't even ask my first question.
It's because you've known me for so long now.
Yeah. Well, I am, because I know that you love this book, but so it came out in 2009. So when did you read it? What made you pick it up?
I probably read it because this is the second book, right? This is The Time Traveler's Wife was first.
I think so.
And I read The Time Traveler's Wife, and I used to travel a lot on my own. And I would always take 3 or 4 paperbacks, and when I was done with them, I would leave them wherever I was in Barcelona or Madrid, because I didn't feel like, I always carried, like, I traveled with a backpack, so I took 3 or 4 books with me, so I was always happy to leave them behind. And I think it was one of those stories that I really liked, that I wanted to read again, but I left it because I just didn't want it taking up space in my backpack. And so when this one came out, I think I probably read it fairly soon after its publication, and just fell in love with the story. I think because I was traveling a lot at the time, I had not been to London for quite some time, but it stayed in my head for a long time.
Yeah.
And then, so 2009, my son would have been small at that point. and because he's 2002. So as he got older, we started traveling like I did when I was young, and he loves anything like slightly macabre. So
Yeah.
he loves the catacombs in Paris, and we've done that a couple of times. So when we booked a trip to London, I was like, we really need to go to Highgate.
Yeah.
Because it is, it's a very different looking cemetery. And they've called, what was the name? How did they describe it? Is the wildness of it kind of like contained
In the cemetery, you mean? Yeah.
because at one point it had gotten very overgrown, and there was a lot of vandalism at a certain point in time. And so the Friends of the Cemetery came along to kind of clean up and take care of it more in a historical way for like the history of the cemeteries as London grew up, and preserving them, and then telling the stories about it. So Highgate Cemetery itself, I think, is a character in the story, because there's so much action that happens in it. And I feel like when I read this story, you feel also now, because I've been there, but when you're reading the story, you can feel the crunchy walkways and the uneven paths, and
imagine slipping and sliding on these
picture
crazy
the
paths.
mausoleums. And there are, there's so much, of course. This would be pre-online where you would be able to see it. So, I mean, she could evoke, I think, a lot of the way that it looks from her stories. And then when you go to visit Highgate Cemetery, and I highly encourage anybody who's in London that has any interest in that historical to go and see it. It's because it's so different than like modern American cemeteries, because it has mausoleums, and it has all the old trees and the undergrowth and famous people.
Yeah. Well, and I think the story does a good job of like kind of diving you into the world of Highgate, like you said, like the Friends of Highgate. But let's see, Robert is like a tour guide, and they live right across from it. And I thought this was interesting. Maybe the listeners will too. So basically, London in the 1800s was developing so quickly. It went from like 1 million people lived in London to 2 million people lived in London. And then like they couldn't keep up with the bodies. And so that's when they started. That's where Highgate Cemetery came from.
Yeah, and I love the name. So they built the cemeteries outside the city limits, and at the time is it called the Magnificent Seven? And so there's like a ring around London, and this is Highgate became very popular because of the height. You have to, when you go and take the train, you do have to climb up a hill. But it's very high up, and she talks about it in the novel, I believe, that it became like the best real estate after you died, because you could still be overlooking all of London.
Okay.
At the highest peak. So the expense and the mausoleums that were at the top were for very wealthy people. So you could still, be seen as very wealthy, even in death, I guess, is kind of the story behind it.
Yeah.
And so the ties to the cemetery, Elspeth and Robert, and the building have their gate backs into Highgate. And so they have special access to the cemetery. And then Elspeth, her family also has a mausoleum there. So when you are an owner in part of the cemetery, you get a key.
Okay.
Or is it just the people that are backed onto the cemetery have a key?
I know he got in trouble for using his key at one point in the story. So I don't know I can't remember exactly. He had a key because he worked there.
No, but Elspeth had a key too. Maybe it's if you back onto the cemetery.
Yes. Well, they had it either way.
They had special access.
Yeah.
So Robert spends a lot of time in the cemetery mourning Elspeth, sitting in front of her tomb, drinking whiskey, mourning her. Yeah. And so this, I guess we can introduce Elspeth back.
Absolutely.
So Elspeth is not gone.
Still
She's not outside. She's not at the mausoleum. She's not in the cemetery. She is trapped in the apartment. And she starts out very wispy, and it talks about her. It does talk about her, I think, at the beginning when she first passes away. And she can view Robert, and I think this view of him in his his desperateness, how lonely he is, and her views of him, seeing her, and she empathizes with him, and she is there in his grief as well. Then the story kind of develops where she sees the twins and she sees Robert and all the interaction that starts to happen between them all.
Yes. And just so for the listeners, so the way the apartments are laid out, so it's 3 stories, I think. So Robert is on the bottom floor and he met Elspeth. He basically, I think, moved into the apartment because he kind of immediately fell in love with her. She's on the 2nd floor. And then the top floor is Martin and
Marika.
Yeah, Martin and Marika. And we haven't talked about Martin and Marika yet, so do you want to jump in?
We can talk a little bit about, because we have to talk about them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So Martin and Marika are the neighbors, and they're close-ish as neighbors can be, but Martin has like crippling OCD, so he is obsessive, and Marika loves him, but she's lived with him for many years, and he won't be treated, and it affects her daily everything because she has to do things a certain way. He is scrubbing and counting and all his compulsive behaviors. And at one point, she decides that to live, she has to leave him, even though she does love him. She truly does. But she just doesn't want to sacrifice her own well-being and her whole life. And so she leaves. So her leaving, there's a little space for Julia to kind of come into, and that's where that relationship, where the twins start to find different paths. So she stumbles into meeting Martin just from circumstances within the house, and she starts to befriend him.
Yes. Yeah. And I think Marika, she goes to Amsterdam, right? And then they have a son, Theo. And also for the listener, like this all happens like in the first like handful of chapters. Like we're not really giving anything away. I wanted to bring up a little bit, because we're talking about Martin and Julia, and then there's Valentina and Robert. One thing I think listeners might be, there's a lot of age gap stuff going on, like huge, like especially Martin and Julia, although, I'm not going to say how far, not all the relationships get anywhere.
Right.
Necessarily, but I think I was like a little bit struck by like, and Audrey Niffenegger, I feel like the Time Traveler's Wife also had some of that.
Well, Claire was a child when she first meets her husband. And so she ages through a normal timeline, linear, and he's all over the place because he pops in and out of time.
Right.
So I think the age is, I don't think she explains or apologizes for it particularly. The twins, I think them being young allows for a lot of innocence. And a lot of they have not experienced the world in any sense. They haven't had to pull jobs or be responsible or have to be accountable. So maybe that allows them to be a little bit more open to Elspeth.
Yeah.
Right? To this creativity, things can happen. And then Elspeth was older than Robert. So Robert really wasn't 20 years older than the twins.
Right, yeah.
She was older than him by, because
8
I
years
think
or something like that.
Robert's boss at the cemetery talks about, isn't she a little young for you? But they also look like pre-teenagers. So there's that component. But then Elspeth was kind of old for him. So the age gap probably was maybe 10 years between them, maybe 10 or 12, which isn't unusual in a male. Is the male being older and the female being younger? I think it's just that the twins are very juvenile.
Yeah, they come across that. And I'm not saying that I really try not to be judgy about other people's relationships. I wanted to bring it up because it was definitely something that I was like, all right, we're going here.
I still think for Robert, the visuals of having Valentina and Julia, they look very much like Elspeth. So I think this is his, his heart, his soulmate was taken from him. And now there's a newer, younger replacement. So why wouldn't he be interested? But he's actually terrified of meeting them. So for many months go by, or many weeks go by.
Yeah.
Where they knock on his door, but because they're a twosome and he's bereaved and he's shy, and that's what Valentina locks in with him, is that he's shy like she is. And it's terrifying for them to be exposed.
Yeah.
So instead they hide, and she's always had Julia as a shield.
Yeah.
And so Robert doesn't have anyone, so he just stays in the apartment. And then he kind of is a little weird because he stalks them for a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I wanted to bring up that I think the writing in this book is tremendous. I mean, she can really craft a story and make you feel like you're in it. And I mean, it is a page turner. You're wondering what is going to happen. It's beautifully written for sure. I loved that.
I know. I keep searching. Like I'm on the follow the Audrey Niffenegger on Amazon, and I try and see if she's writing a little bit more. She has written some smaller things, and I think she's also an artist, and so she's done some smaller novellas. But I love her writing style, and so I wanted to say, because when we were kind of categorizing it, I don't really know. Just hanging my glasses. How you would characterize the novel. It's not like the very popular. I wanted to differentiate it from the romantic fantasy or is that the term?
Not romantic.
This is more, I was thinking it's more contemporary fiction.
Yeah.
But more like gothic. It's a little bit, you have to suspend belief.
Yes. Magical realism a little bit.
Yeah.
It's definitely gothic. I mean, this is like...
So contemporary gothic?
Yeah.
I wrote that down.
Yeah. This is like a Victorian, like a Wuthering Heights kind of book set in 2005.
Yeah, I think also Valentina's name and her perspective lens, that because she likes a little bit more of the old-fashioned. She's more interested in the historical. A lot of Elspeth was a bookseller of rare and special books.
Of course, I loved that. Yes. I was like, oh, I would kill to live that. But,
right.
I mean, I have a great life.
And so if you come back as a ghost, then you have a friend that you think is coming back as a ghost. In this story, Elspeth would have been content if all the books had been all flung across the floor and she could just read.
Yeah.
And she could read all the pages.
She would kind of have to peek over their shoulders initially and try to read along with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, so Gothic, Victorian, even though it's set contemporary times, but it harkens back to a lot of, I think, this historical part of London that, there's so much history there. I liked that part of it. It's hard to, the story is so unique, I think, but you don't want to give anything away.
Okay, I thought about maybe not right this second, but I thought about maybe this special episode because the ending is so bonkers that we we'll do all the normal stuff and then we'll do a little short segment where you and I can say what happens at the end.
Okay.
And I'll be I'll do the whole episode and then I'll be if you've read the book, you want to hear us talk about the ending. Okay. We'll do that. Okay. That part is, I've never done that before, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, okay. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that when you read it, if you've never read it, I liken it to the Star Wars movie when they read, when Kylo Ren comes back. And horrible spoiler, if you haven't seen that movie, Han Solo dies. And
we had a lot of time to see it.
I read a review before I saw the movie, and I grew up with Han Solo.
Yeah.
So I was so disappointed. So I never want to spoil anything.
Yeah, I don't think we have yet. Who's your favorite character? I guess is a good question.
I love Robert. I think because he's so heartbroken. And I think at the end of the day, the story about the longing and our heart's desire, I think sometimes we don't know that maybe that's not what's best for us.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah.
That sometimes life happens, and his boss Jessica says this one thing because she's in her 80s and she runs Friends of the Cemetery in the book, and someone is surprised about something she had done in her past, and she says, "One may do many things in a lifetime, time for all sorts of adventures." And so, this is the beginning of adventure for Julie and Valentina. Robert's maybe in the middle of his, he's had a couple of adventures. They've had 0 adventures before this. And then Martin and Marika, they had their early marriage. They had the challenging part with Martin being very ill. There's some really, we're not talking about them a lot, but a lot of funny things happen with Martin in the story as well. He's not a character to be underestimated.
Right.
And Robert is very helpful. And so I think she blends them all together in a very realistic way with everybody, coping with everybody has different weaknesses. And then at some point, Valentina starts standing up for herself, and that's kind of when the trouble starts to happen.
Yeah, when she wants to separate it out. And we also, so we talked about everybody except, we really haven't talked about Edie and Jack over in Chicago.
Oh, that's right.
And so Elsbeth and Edie, right? It's short for Edwina. I don't know however you pronounce it. Edie, Eddie, I don't know.
I think that's right.
Something happened between them before Edwina married Jack.
Yeah, so the 2 twins, Edwina and Elspeth. So Jack happened.
Yeah.
So as Julie and Valentina are struggling with the we and the I part, trying to separate, their aunt and their mother had the same. They were together all the time. They were young people. But then Jack happened, and one of them was going to be with him.
Yeah.
And he was American. That was the other thing. So they were looking at being separated. So then there was some conflict between the twins about Jack and some competitiveness, I would say.
Yeah. And same thing. I don't want to give too much away, because that's also sort of like, it starts really small, what you know about the whole situation. And by the end of it, you're like, wow. So you just know there's a conflict, and the two are a little bit estranged. But I think they still communicate, and that the book starts off that they still write each other letters. So.
At one point, Jack thinks that Edie is having an affair, so he hires someone to follow her, and she knows that she's being followed, and she's getting a letter from her twin.
Yeah.
And she reads it, and then she burns it, and then she waves at the private investigator, and she gets back in her car, and she goes home.
Yeah.
And so you get like little bits and pieces that there's other parts of the story, and it kind of goes back and forth to the twins, and as the twins develop, and then Elspeth in this whole time is getting stronger and making herself known. And she finds she doesn't have much mass, but she has energy.
Yeah.
So she can affect electricity a little bit, and she can also kind of pass through things. So I think in part of her growth as a ghost, she realizes what she can do, what she can't do.
Right.
And maybe she should try and do the things that she can do. And so when she touches a human warm, and there's a lot of visceral kind of feelings, right? When you're in the cemetery, when Elspeth touches them, they get really cold. And it's kind of creepy feeling for them. It's not like pleasant.
They don't like it. Yeah. Like you get the chills, which is what all the ghost hunters say you feel as well.
So maybe there really are ghosts.
Yeah. I'm all like, and one thing with reading this too is like, I realize I love ghost books. I think that's like one of my favorite genres.
I think
like that ghost.
Yeah, I think that suspense I think the part that I really love about this story is that it's just beyond like what our world that we live in. And, we're so used to being able to like see and weigh and measure everything that this is like unmeasurable.
Right.
And there are very many people that don't believe when the twins initially say there's a ghost. So it takes a little time before Robert believes and bringing everybody into the story. So I think that's kind of tricky too. Like, how do you make everybody believe when everybody's kind of experiencing the ghost in a different way?
Yeah.
But she is eventually able to communicate with them. So that part is really interesting. So there is actually communication in real time. And then the ghost has things that the ghost wants.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. I did want to ask before we're going to dive into the end. Who would you recommend this story for?
Oh, I think anybody that just wants to escape a little bit. Maybe escape to I don't know the uniqueness of the twins. I mean, I think that unless you're a twin, you don't know what that's like. So I think that is really interesting because who can understand you? Like they sort of are almost like symbiotic. Like they know what each other's thinking. There's one point where they get separated in like the tube and they know what each other's feeling. And Julia deliberately does things because she knows this is what is going to happen to Valentina. So a little escape. Another transporting into another time. I mean, it is going to London, but it's reflecting a lot on the past. So if you like history and just a really good love story and, you know, like it's, I think things happen for a reason sometimes. I don't want to say like, you know, I don't know, life happens. And sometimes when we try to manipulate it too much, I think maybe we can maybe this story will allow you to maybe let go of some of that, just allowing things to happen or allowing people to help you. Like Julia really helps Martin.
Yes.
In the end, even though Julia is not my favorite character, she probably is one of the people that does the most good in the story.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say she's a
little maligned in the story, I think. Not maligned, I think like people love Valentina.
Right.
It's presented that way. Yeah. She's presented as easier to love, but Julia is trying to be the protector. She's a good.
Yeah. She makes the most ethical decisions, I think. Well, there's a couple.
Well, she's like 20s or 25.
Yeah. She'll get better. She's probably doing great.
Yeah, so I think if you want to like a little escape, it's a feel-good story.
Okay, y'all, this is the part I was telling you about after this. This is a spoiler alert. So if you want to read the book, go ahead and stop now. But if you want to hear our thoughts on the ending, here we go.
It's a feel-good story.
Okay, well, on that note, all right, so we're going to change gears because I was reading this. All right, so anyone who's listening right now, if you want to read the story, you haven't read the story, stop because I haven't done this before, but we have to talk about the ending.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to try to get us there as quickly as possible. Okay. Explain what happens. So we just went through the whole story. Elspeth is a ghost. Mm-hmm. We figure out that Elspeth can kill people. Like, she can go and basically take their soul out of their body. Mm-hmm. And the first time it happens an accident, then Valentina decides that the only way she can escape from the hold that her sister Julia has on her is to pretend to die or to actually die. Mm-hmm. So she convinces Robert and Elspeth to help her. Elspeth the ghost, right? I've got it right so far. Okay. To help her do this. So first they're like, no. I want to also mention at some point in the story, Robert says something to Valentina along the lines of Elspeth probably does not have your best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is the love of your life. What are you saying about her?
Because he describes her as she was clever and funny and witty, but she wasn't kind.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Valentina, full speed ahead, Elspeth takes Valentina's soul out of her body. Valentina dies. Everybody's heartbroken. They have this whole thing. The parents come from America. Mm-hmm. Julia's distraught. Everyone's distraught. Meanwhile, Elspeth and Valentina's soul are like hiding in a drawer in the apartment. So they go through the whole cemetery. In the meantime, Robert convinces his undertaker friend to hold Valentina's body on ice so it doesn't decay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they're going to put the soul back in the body. Have the funeral, bring the body back up to the apartment, and Elspeth is supposed to put the soul
Put Valentina back.
Mm-hmm. And this moment happens. And that's the part I couldn't quite understand if she just didn't do it or if she tried to do it and it didn't work. But she somehow, Elspeth's soul ends up in Valentina's body.
So from Elspeth's point of view, she remembers kind of when she was first released from her own body. She was very amorphous. Mm-hmm. And so she feels like it's I think there's room for interpretation here. So I think that she feels like Valentina's like baby soul and is kind of squirmy and he's not formed like she is, not knowledgeable. Yeah. But the first time the death happens, it was Valentina's kitten.
Yes.
And so when she got Valentina saw it happen and was mortified, and she said, "Put her back, put her back, put her back."
Yeah.
And so Elspeth the ghost put the ghost kitten back, and then the kitten ran off and was fine. So this is where Valentina gets the idea, is that you can take me out, and then everyone will be sad, but then I can disappear. And she doesn't want the money. She just wants to be free. And so as Valentina's, I think she could have put Valentina back. I think that allows for that. That she should have put
the Valentina back.
She should have put Valentina back.
Yeah,
but then she thought, because she's clever and she's been a ghost for a while, it's just like, well, if she's not deciding, I'll just take it, because it's gonna go to waste.
Yes. So that happens. There's a lot of other things that happen. Another thing that happens that I thought was absolutely wild is you find out through a letter. So also, Robert had like a year and a half to read all of these letters that Elspeth left, and he didn't read it. So finally he decides to read the letter.
Yes.
And he finds out that the person you think is Elspeth is actually Edwina, and the real Elspeth is Edie over Chicago. And also that you think the twins are Edwina's twins, but they're actually the person or the ghost that we know as Elspeth is actually their mother.
Yes.
So they switched, which I thought was absolutely, we're both moms. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not letting I'm not giving my children to my sister. Like,
so the twins, so the Edwina Elspeth story starts out as, so I think she keeps them with the same names, so it gets less confusing.
Yeah.
So Edie, that we know, Edie is American, married to Jack, and was supposed to. So she and Jack get together back in their youth, but then he starts getting very flirty with Elspeth, so she decides that she is going to test him. So they switch.
Yeah. And
Elspeth pretends she's Edie and is like flirting with him, and they're just trying to sort out.
Yeah.
Is he true? Will he stay true? But Edie's scheduled to marry Jack. Unbeknownst to Edie at the time, they have a one night.
Elspeth and Jack,
which results in the twins. But Elspeth never had any intention of marrying Jack or being a mother. And I think that goes, and it talks about her character, how she was like, everyone was horrified. Like, she didn't want that life.
Yeah.
But Jack and Edie get married. And Elspeth goes back to America with Jack. With the twins, because she's the mother. She goes back with Jack with the twins.
And pretends to be Edie in America.
Yes. Yeah. She's pretending to be Edie in America. And then she says she's coming back for the twins to meet their grandmother. And then the twins switch again.
Edie and Elspeth. So,
yes.
Yeah. So that's Edie is actually the aunt, but she pretends to be their mother their whole life.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And Jack isn't sure about anything.
And Jack apparently knew the whole time. And anyway, I thought that part
was pretending.
He was pretending that he didn't know.
No.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. But he didn't
because
know.
The girls wouldn't tell him. So that was the estrangement, is because they didn't want to be seen together, because they didn't want anybody to put the pieces together for their whole lives.
Yeah.
And so then there's regret.
Right.
And then there's more regret.
Yes.
As Robert gets his heart's desire, because he gets Elspeth back.
Right. In Valentina's body.
And in the descriptors of the way she describes the newly formed Elspeth now. So she has Elspeth's personality, but Valentina's body, but none of like the kindness or the sweetness or the light of Valentina. And I think there's one part where he talks about her breath.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to that, be careful what you wish for, because he really truly got his heart's desire back, right? He wanted her back, and he got her. And it was horrifying.
Yeah. It was like that moment. I don't know.
I guess that's the Gothic part, right?
That is,
because it would have been more like fantasy if like she was perfect.
Yeah, yeah, if it had all been wonderful. I was just horrified because it's like, oh, well, actually, you're this person's mother and you're not. I mean, like, I just couldn't.
I
I'm
didn't
sure
even think about
I
that.
was like, you were going to take your daughter's body? Like, I mean,
I think that was the selfishness. And then he
yeah.
said something about her being hollowed out or changed,
Mm-hmm.
that she
Yeah.
had lost empathy.
Yeah, I think she did. And she said at some point in the story that she would have made like a horrible, like she makes some kind of selfish decision. And she said, I would have been a horrible mother. And that
Mm,
you don't know it at that time, but that's
yeah.
alluding to the fact that, well, she was actually the girl's mother. But
Hmm.
anyway, I
Yeah,
thought
so I
that,
think there's so many twists and turns. I think that's probably why I'd initially read it more than
mm-hmm.
once, because I was just like, what happened?
What? Yeah, I know. The last like 70 pages are just like,
Surprise after
I
surprise.
know. That's why I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
talk to you about it.
And then things are nice for Julia in the end. Like, we give
Yes.
everyone kind of like, it's almost like Julia is almost like, there's almost like a neglect of her character because
Mm-hmm.
we're not as attentive, because really the action is between Valentina and Elspeth.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the action is happening
Yeah.
between them, her trying to convince. Valentina's I think she's very meek, and it sort
Mm-hmm.
of, on reread, she wants what she wants.
Yeah.
And I think Robert asks at one point, is she suicidal? Because she wants nothing more than to be independent.
Yeah.
And the only way she can see it is for her to
To die. Which, I mean, there's so many comments about that. Like, we had no other option.
Yeah.
Anyway, like you said, suspend disbelief, kind
Yeah.
of get into the story, all that kind of stuff. It reminded me of, there was I think it's a young adult book, and it turned into a movie called Behind Her Eyes.
Okay.
And it's like a horror. This is also like a little bit of a horror story. Like, once you know the ending.
Uh-huh.
But Behind Her Eyes is about like the same kind of thing. Like
Okay.
and that's the evil soul
Oh,
of a
okay.
person who is able to take over the bodies of good people
Okay.
and pretend to be them and manipulate
Okay.
others. Yeah. So I was definitely getting like, oh my gosh, this is so
Yeah.
like behind her eyes.
Well, there's like kind of like, and then for Elspeth, like there's really, I mean, once she gets what she wants as well, there's no like magical, wonderful things that are happening for her either. She has to sort of hide and transform
Yeah.
because she's in a body that people would recognize. So
Right.
she changes her hair and she changes.
Yeah.
And then Julie recognizes her at some point. Doesn't recognize her,
Right.
but they all have pieces of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then Robert at the end, poor Robert.
Yeah, Robert, FYI, ends up leaving her, which I was like, I don't think I could handle being married to somebody who did that, or being in a
Mhm.
relationship with someone knowing they took
And
my girlfriend's soul out,
Uh-huh.
or took their body, I guess.
Yeah. But probably not the end for Robert, because there's another baby Robert running around.
Yeah, they have
Right?
a baby. Yeah, so there's another baby. Okay, so I have to tell you, in my head, so the story ends. Julia got what she wanted, which is Valentina now can't leave.
Mhm.
She's now trapped in the apartment.
Oh, that's true. I always forget about that part.
Yeah.
That Julia knows that Valentina's a ghost.
Yes.
And so, yes.
Yeah, and so you have to imagine that Valentina is going to get stronger, just like Elf before her got stronger, and communicate with Julia.
Mhm.
In my head, the plan would be, this is what I would do.
Mhm.
I would be like, we are going to get her.
I think she's already got. I think for Elspeth, I mean, everybody wants what their heart wants, right?
Yeah.
And what your heart wants is sometimes not good. What happened, like Elspeth does not have a happy ending. Robert does not have a happy ending. The girls, they kind of, Julia's okay. And I think Valentina got what she wanted. Like that's how I see it. I think the girls got what they wanted, right? You don't see that?
No, if I was Valentina, I would be so mad.
No, Valentina wanted to be free. That's the only thing she wanted.
She is able to be free, and
because she figured out how to get out of the apartment.
Yeah, she does figure out how to get out of the apartment, and I'm very happy for her. But
and she has her kitty.
Yeah, and she has a kid, but I would still want to come back and live my full human life. So I would be like, Julia, we're going to lure Elsbeth in my old body back here, murder her, and I will immediately go in and take over the body.
But she would still smell bad.
I don't know. That was my whole. That was like I was like she has to write a book too where they get this
No,
that in my
I
head.
think the happier
You
to
like
the
it.
gothic murder
Uh-huh.
is that all the innocents
Mhm.
got what they wanted. Julia still gets to have her life. She gets to be comforted because she knows Valentina is a ghost and she
Yeah.
knows that Valentina is around her. She finally can be herself because she's never
Yeah.
taken care of just Julia. She's always taken care of Valentina and Julia because they were so young
Right.
and coddled.
Yeah.
And Valentina got to be free. That's the only thing Valentina wanted was to be free. And Edie, who's
Mhm.
really Elspeth,
Mhm.
finally got to tell Jack, and Jack finally got to be unburdened and be like, I knew this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, can we just like live with what we
Right.
have?
Yeah. Even
And
though now
Edie,
one of our daughters is dead.
this is true.
Yeah. So no, it
But I
wasn't.
think if you leave with the thought that Valentina got what she wanted,
Yeah.
if you leave it at that, and so sort of the bad people, you know, if
Elspeth is bad.
yeah, if bad things,
Happen to bad people.
yeah, Elspeth got what she deserved, right? She's like untouchable. The
Uh-huh.
person that loved her the most in the world wants nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
Where when she was a ghost, he would pine and mourn
Yeah.
and always remember her in this lovely way. Where all of that's been ruined now.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, you're selling me. You're selling, and that's what this.
That's how I took it, and that's
Yeah.
I think how how it becomes like a love story is
Mhm.
that you know bad people can do bad things, and but sometimes people still get what they want. You
Mhm.
know, maybe what you want, like Robert, what he wanted was to have Elspeth back.
Yeah.
Elspeth wanting to be back with Robert,
Mhm.
maybe you know.
Back human. Yeah.
So, but I do think the twins are the redemption
Mhm.
in the story. I don't think Valentina's unhappy because it talks about her.
She
Like,
does. Yes, it does talk about her being free and flying.
mhm,
Also, we have to mention that Martin and Marika are
mhm.
reunited at the end
Yes.
because they do love each other. It is really Martin's illness that
Mhm,
is holding them, and
mhm,
he ends up finding a way to overcome. He's still
mhm,
obviously. I don't know if he's ever going to be completely healed, but he
mhm.
is able to overcome the bulk of his
Yeah,
difficulties.
some functional things. So there's a lot of nice little stories
Mm-hmm.
in between and through. There's a great dentist story there,
Yeah.
and Highgate itself when they talk. And I have to say, my son and I, when we visited Highgate, I saw one of these tours happening, and we hadn't signed. I don't know if you have to sign up for it, but we latched onto the end of it and we trailed through. So we heard a lot of like the spiel of like a lot
Uh-huh.
of what the tour guides, and they stop at certain ones. So I think there is one tomb that they always talk about, which is I think there's like a dog that stands guard over his
Yeah.
master's tomb. And so there were a couple of those. And for George Michael fans, he's buried in
Yeah, I saw that.
Highgate and he's buried under his original name. So my
He's
son
Greek.
we were able to find that. Yeah, so
Really?
that
So
was
cool.
really was fun for my son to make something relevant, I guess. I
Mhm.
mean, even though that's a little Wham's a little before his time. But you know, it was, you know, I think that that's what history and like living history is, right? Making the past meaningful in our time and
Yeah.
understanding our fortunes, I think. And I think that this story of I love the story of Valentina, even though she's dead. But you know, but we all die, and you
Yeah.
know, and hers was like, you know, slightly traumatic, but she had probably for the first time in her life a lot of control, which she hadn't.
Right.
So
You
interesting.
sold me. You sold me on the ending, and that's what this is all about is, why you love this book. So I love talking
Well,
about
I'm
it.
glad because like the horrible vengeance thing that had not occurred to me. I'm glad if I could turn you away from an extra murder.
I
I'm
don't
very proud.
know.
I'm very proud.
Audrey
I did my job. I
Niffenegger.
did my job.
Yeah,
Maybe I don't know. Audrey Niffenegger can maybe tell us what her thoughts are.
yeah. Well, if she's listening, I'm just
It was
putting it.
redemptive,
Yeah.
or
Or
is
is
there?
book two coming? I mean, you got Gigi or Valerie's options here. Well, I loved it. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we'll see how this goes with like having our first spoiler alerts thing. But I told Bill, I was like, every time I finished a chapter, I was like, you won't believe what they did now.
I'm glad you really liked
I
it.
liked it. I was a little like Elspeth anyway, but you saw me, Valentina's happy. I would not be, just if you know, if you murder me and you take my body, I will come
Come
for you.
back.
I'm
Yes.
coming for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I am not
Ouija
Valentina.
board and the whole shebang. I'm gonna
Yeah,
put.
just
Yeah,
watch.
I like that when she puts her hand inside them, and they get really cold.
Yeah.
You would do that, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
You would like squeeze
yeah.
like bowels.
They would never be free. They would wish for death. So anyway,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much. This has been a blast. A
Thanks
happy
for having me
Yay.
again.
Okay.
Yay.
Oh, anything you want to put a spotlight on?
Travel.
Oh.
Travel, read, be free.
Be free.
Be free, be you.
Perfect. Thank you for spending some time with me and my guests for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.